I first heard of Anneliese Michel in a small Bavarian town called Klingenberg am Main, in a quiet, devout community where everyone knew everyone, and the church bell was the heartbeat of daily life. She was born in 1952, a bright, gentle girl, deeply religious, the kind of person who bowed before every meal and crossed herself before every test. Her family raised her in strict Catholic tradition, and she was known for her devotion, but everything changed when she was 16. It started with something small, a sudden freezing of her body, a violent tremor, a loss of control. Doctors diagnosed it as temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition that could cause seizures and hallucinations. Medication was prescribed. Her family prayed. Life went on, or at least, it tried to. Anneliese began hearing voices. At first, she thought it was the after effect of the medication, and the doctors told her to ignore it. But these voices weren't kind or random. They mocked her. They cursed God. They told her she was condemned. Sometimes she saw dark figures standing at the edge of her bed, tall, faceless shapes that whispered her name in the dead of night. Her mother once found her kneeling before the Virgin Mary statue, crying, saying she could see black hands reaching out of the floor. Her faith began to crumble. The more she prayed, the worse it became. Objects would fall. Doors would slam. She'd wake up with bruises and scratches that she couldn't explain. And then came the aversion. She could no longer walk past a crucifix without screaming. Holy water burned her skin. She said she could smell something rotting whenever a priest entered the room. By 1973, Anneliese's condition had worsened. She dropped out of university and returned home. Her parents, Anna and Joseph Michel, were desperate. The doctors said it was schizophrenia, but Anneliese insisted, and it wasn't in her head. She said there were 6 beings inside her, 6 voices that spoke as one. They called themselves Lucifer, Judas Iscariot, Cain, Nero, Fleischmann, a defrocked priest, and Adolf Hitler. The voices mocked her, told her she belonged to them, that her soul had been promised. Her local priest, Father Ernst Alt, began visiting her regularly. He noted her strange behavior, her ability to speak in ancient languages she'd never learned, her unnatural strength, her voice dropping to a deep growl that shook the walls. Father Alt wrote to the bishop pleading for an exorcism, but the church was cautious. It had been years since an official exorcism had been authorized in Germany. It took nearly 2 years before Bishop Joseph Stangl granted permission under one condition. The sessions must follow the Ritual Romanum, the official rite of exorcism, unchanged since the 1600s. It began on September 24, 1975. Father Alt and another priest, Father Arnold Renz, arrived at the Michel household, carrying crucifixes, holy water, and a tape recorder. There would be 67 sessions in total, each lasting up to 4 hours, each one more horrifying than the last. During these sessions, Anneliese would snarl, growl, and scream in voices that seemed to come from the pit of hell itself. She spoke fluent Latin, mimicking the priest's prayers, twisting their words into mockery. Sometimes she would bark like a dog, hiss or crawl under the table, her body contorted, her bones cracking in unnatural angles. Her parents described how she would kneel hundreds of times until her knees bled. Her voice, sometimes childlike, sometimes guttural, would beg for mercy one second and curse God the next. The recordings captured it all. You can still hear them today. A girl's voice, and layered with something else, screaming, growling, laughing, and in between, the priests praying desperately. Depart from this child of God. But the voices didn't leave. As months passed, Anneliese's body began to waste away. She refused to eat, saying the demons would not allow it. Her hands were torn from clenching so tightly during the rituals. Her eyes sunk deep into her skull. Yet through all the agony, she said something that still chills me to this day. I must suffer for others. I must atone for the sins of the youth, for the priests and for my mother. Even in torment, she believed her suffering had purpose, that God had chosen her to carry the burden of others' sins. By June 1976, she weighed barely 30 kilograms. Her voice was faint, her body broken. Yet she still insisted on continuing the sessions. On the morning of July 1st, 1976, Anneliese whispered her final words to her mother. "Mother, I'm afraid." She died later that day. Her death sent shockwaves through Germany. The church, the doctors, her family, all faced trial. The priest and her parents were charged with negligent homicide. During the proceedings, the exorcism tapes were played in the courtroom, her voice echoing through the halls of justice, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Experts argued it was a case of mental illness worsened by religious obsession. Others, including the priests, swore they had witnessed true possession. The court found the parents and priests guilty of manslaughter, but their sentences were suspended. The judge called it a tragedy between science and faith. Even after her burial, the town whispered. Some claimed to have seen strange lights around her grave. Others swore they heard faint whispers when they prayed near her tomb. In 1978, Anneliese's body was exhumed. Her parents wanted to see if she had decayed, believing she might be incorrupt. The church discouraged it, but they did it anyway. When the coffin was opened, the officials claimed her body was in a normal state of decomposition. But her parents never spoke of what they saw. Today, her grave remains a site of quiet pilgrimage. People leave rosaries, flowers, and handwritten prayers. Some come seeking forgiveness. Others come seeking proof. And the tapes, those 42 terrifying recordings, are still preserved. Scholars study them, priests warn against them, but those who listen claim that no movie, no story, no scripture could ever match the sound of Anneliese's voice. Her story inspired the Exorcism of Emily Rose. But the real version, the true one, is darker, sadder, and far more human. Because maybe, just maybe, Anneliese wasn't possessed by demons. Maybe she was possessed by belief itself. But then again, if you play those tapes late at night when the world is silent, you might just hear her whisper your name.